Hello everyone. Good evening and good morning, good afternoon to all of you from different parts of the world. So we are back again here with none other than Grandmaster Boris Avruk with this 52-week program on based on opening it only. So hello sir, how are you?
Hello. I'm doing great. I'm very excited. Thank you very much for moderating this session. Um,
So
so
we have today our first session of 52-week program, and the topic for the today's session is Italian knight f6 and knight g5. This is quite interesting opening, I feel. So it's we have healthy number of people joining here. So let me remind you, people, you can put your questions if you have any doubts and questions. You can put them in Q&A box. It's below there on your screens. So you will find it on Q&A. There you can put your questions, and there is another button, chat box, where you can put your answers, whatever Mr. Boris will ask you during the session. So you can put your answer over there and he will be seeing them. So we will be taking 10 minutes Q&A at the end of the session. So till then you should be prepared with your questions, and we'll be answering some only genuine questions. So try to put as good as much you can. So we have a healthy number of people here. It's time to start the session. Over to you, Mr. Boris.
thank you. So well, good evening, good morning for everyone. I'm very excited to come back to the nutter.com with another series. This time about openings. Let's put it this way. My obvious specialty, I guess, like some of you familiar with my books and with my coaching career, especially coaching top players. So we will start a 52 weeks program where I'll try to cover as many openings as possible. We'll see how it works. I guess like you have a schedule. This is a tentative schedule, but we'll see how it's going during the sessions. I don't think we will have the same format like it was during the dynamic lectures where I was asking the questions. Here, I would rather prefer to give you as much material as possible because the time is very limited, 1 hour. I feel like it's not so much for the material. So, and today for the first class, we'll start with the Italian, one of the sharpest lines in, like probably the sharpest line in Italian. So, well, those are the initial moves of the Italian. So knight c6, bishop c4. So that's probably the initial position where everything starts. I would say I wanted to say like a few words. So we call it Italian, and I used to call it all the time Italian for me, but I notice here, I don't know how it works, let's say in India, but many people call this opening in US gioco piano, or even more simple piano. It's even, I think like it's even more common than Italian, but I think like all over the world it's more popular to call it Italian. Yeah, well, if somebody is interested in ECO, that I remember when I was a kid, I used this ECO, like I knew every opening. So it's a C54. So a few words about Italian. I would call it Italian. A few words about this opening. I heard somewhere that it's one of the first openings recorded in chess in some 16th century. I'm not sure about this information, but it's probably about truth. I mean, I guess like I have a strong feeling that King's Gambit may be the earliest opening, but still, it's definitely one of the earliest openings. It's very interesting transformation of this opening, like throughout the years. I believe that let's say if we take like 10 years ago, I remember that like many players played Italian. Obviously, it's been always like that, but I would say it was under, let's say, level FIDE rating 2350. So it was an easy opening to explain. Many beginners, and then like maybe expert level, club level, that was the opening for them. And then once you go to like stronger title level, Ruy Lopez definitely was the first choice. I was always I remember even to my students, I was saying, okay, you still play Italian, you can still like that's the level, you can still survive. I mean, you can get advantage, but once you get to much more serious players, that probably like we have to study Ruy Lopez. Suddenly, well, very surprisingly for me, like 5 years ago, approximately, maybe even a little bit more, the situation has been changed. And now on the top level, probably Italian is the first choice to meet E4, E5. Now, the reason for that Ruy Lopez, everyone has been struggling with Berlin. So it was very hard to find advantage there. It was so much theory and very clear play, and some like you have to play some end games. So not so many like white players were happy with this, and suddenly they started to explore Italian, and they came up with a new concept, in my opinion, that changed all these directions. Like that, Ruy Lopez definitely was by far the first choice. I think nowadays Italian, I would say, rather more popular even than Ruy Lopez, and every high-level tournament, at least a few games, you can find Italian, and I think from what I see, all these developments, it's just ideas, like new ideas coming up like all the time. I remember like working with my students, and we check something, and then another student I check in 2 weeks, and there are like already a bunch of new games with the new ideas, with the new developments. Very, very interesting. It's appeared to be much more complex and much more interesting than I thought. So this is our start, and for the beginning we will start with move knight f6 and sharp variation knight g5. So what's going on here is that 1 second, something, yeah. So what's going on, that like we definitely on the top level you can see mostly bishop c5 move, because not everyone wants to take risk allowing knight g5. On the other hand, it's very interesting that you can see that once this position occurs, probably most of the players play d3, because you know knight g5 requires very good study. It's very sharp. There are, like, if you don't know the theory for white, there might be also some problems, as we can see today. So and in my opinion, overall, this move is not worse than bishop c5, and definitely deserves very serious attention. However, if you play knight f6 and you want to have this move in your repertoire, you have to be ready for knight g5. And this is like the topic of our lecture today. So after knight g5, we definitely have the main move d5. That goes without questions. However, it's very important to mention some old ideas, some tricky gambit lines, where white has to be precise, but white is definitely better. So I think probably the most serious of them is bishop c5. That I was surprised. It was not that easy to find a very clear advantage due to a big amount of lines. But before we get to bishop c5, I want to mention this like funny move knight e4, that again, this requires a very good knowledge from white. For instance, if you suddenly decide to take with the knight, trying to win the material, I think like after that would be a mistake. After queen h4, as far as I understand, black is better. Black is better due to like problematic f2 pawn. For instance, after castle, there is knight f2 followed by bishop c5 coming, and if I remember correctly, black is better. For instance, one of the lines, rook takes f2, bishop goes to c5, queen e2, rook f8, and everything is hanging, and black is having a very active play. So this is rather not a great line for white. So white has to know very well. Obviously, it goes without saying that if we take just knight a4 d5, this is what black wants. Black would have like just a normal game here. So the best way to proceed for white is to take pawn on f7, king e7 only move. And now I believe two moves enough for advantage. for serious advantage. One is kind of like simple human d3, taking advantage of the fact that knight g5 is not possible due to bishop g5, and black loses his queen. So knight f6, knight f6 in this position has to be played, and then we just move away, bishop b3, bishop b3. Probably he has to go something like d5 in this position, but overall we can play castle, or maybe even start right away with move like that, starting to opening up the position. But in general, castle, and I don't think, even despite a great center, his king is very problematic and white is clearly better. However, probably more challenging d4, and even stronger, because we might consider punishing black right away. It's not a great opening with the king on e7. So I think after d4, it's overall quite solid advantage. I felt like the best line for black not to lose immediately would be h6, and then we take knight takes e4 and king f7, at least eliminating this dangerous bishop. Then d5 comes, d5, knight d4. So there was one game here. I just checked this, and very logical play, c3. Let's say the knight moves to b5. Unfortunately, that's pretty unfortunate for black. But on the other hand, I think knight f5, if I understand correctly, loses material after queen f3 with idea g4. So he has to go knight b5, and we just play simple chess, but very efficient. I guess castle f4, queen h5 check. The position looks, to be honest, very bad. So that's more or less the refutation of knight e4. Now bishop c5. This is much more serious. But again, as usual, required some good knowledge. I decided that the best line here, bishop f7. Just for your knowledge, knight f7, in my opinion, less clear. Why? You might really wonder how it's possible not to play knight f7, but the whole point is this trick, bishop f2 check. So this is how black starts his initiative. So king f2, if I understand correctly, would run into knight e4, followed by queen h4. There might be some win. I didn't go too much, because I was rather more in favor, like to finding like some safe advantage for white, and I think I succeeded in doing this. But here the main line, in my opinion, was king f1, queen e7, knight takes h8, and I think like d5 in this position. So the play goes crazy, to be honest. D5, e5, and knight d4. And I wasn't sure 100% what's going on. In the beginning, it seemed to me like white should be winning, but later on, it was less clear. So this position, I thought it's double-edged and not very safe for white. That's the most important. So that's why I believe bishop f7 is much more safe way for white to fight for advantage. After bishop f7, king e7 is the main move, because black wants definitely to use f-file for targeting f2 pawn. Now king f8 doesn't make too much sense, in my opinion. We just move the bishop, and I think like it will be clear advantage. I mean, I have some line here like queen e7, so we just complete development. We just play d3. There is nothing amazing here for black. I don't think like too many ideas. Knight d4, let's say active move. So we just take knight f3, trading or eliminating knight from d4 would leave white with very clear advantage and no compensation whatsoever for black. So that's why king e7. Now in the beginning, I had the impression that bishop d5 the best move. But then, like, once I started to get into this line more in depth, I realized that we rather don't need to hang this bishop on d5, and let's play bishop b3. Let's play bishop e3, probably the most natural move in this position. So I guess there are two natural ways for Black to develop his initiative. One very logical is rook f8, and another move that I checked is queen e8. Queen e8 with idea to bring, well, first of all, defending against knight f7, obviously, and trying to bring queen to g6, targeting g2. So after queen e8, so the play is very natural. The play is very natural. We need move d3 to protect the pawn. He plays d6, I think, opening up the bishop, so bishop g4 somewhere. So one of the ideas for Black to play h6, knight f3, bishop g4 pin, I think it's very recommended, and it's, in my opinion, it's safe. Maybe we can play castle and after h6 go knight f3, but then there is some definite initiative for Black on the king side. Bishop g4, queen g6, rook f8. There are many ideas. So I think bishop f3 eliminating the bishop on c5. That just brings pretty much solid advantage to white, in my opinion. After queen g6, he can also start with capturing. I think it doesn't matter. Very important that we have this tactical idea to go knight f3, and the pawn on g2 is basically untouchable because we'll have rook g1. So approximate line, actually like 2 games in this position went bishop takes e3, fe3, and now we already have a problem with transposition. It's a little bit more, it's 4 games. In general, yes, we didn't punish Black for this kind of opening, but on the other hand, we keep healthy extra pawn, and I think it's good enough. It's good enough to play this position and enjoy extra pawn. So the only idea is maybe to target e3 pawn. So the easiest way to deal with this is like to play queen d2, after knight g4, to play king e2. The position is pretty close, so there is no big issue with the king on e2. Bishop d7 and just knight c3, right? So we develop, and maybe it's not the most aggressive approach from white. Maybe there are some other ways, but it's very easy. It's very how I would phrase this, very natural play, easy to remember without any complications, and in my opinion, it's highly recommended. So this is queen e8, and another idea, instead of queen e8, rook f8. Then again, the same approach. We continue d3, d3, d6, d6. If he plays knight d4, we have knight f3 again. There is no bishop g4, so it's good time to have this idea to eliminate knight from d4. Queen e8, obviously we can play the same strategy like I just mentioned in the previous line. So bishop e3, take, queen goes to g6, knight f3 again. Queen g2 runs into rook g1, followed by rook g7. So we are doing very well. So after d6, which is the main move, I decided to go back knight f3. So here in this position, bishop e3, it was another choice, but knight f3 is also pretty useful move. So basically, after bishop g4, I play bishop e3. So we just delayed in one move. But bishop e3, computer likes knight d2 in this position, but I would rather prefer to get rid of bishop on c5, right? And even maybe slightly in ruining our pawn structure, because we'd rather have pawn on f2. But it's not such a bad not such a big deal. Bishop e3, f e3. So it still remains compact. It's not that this pawn is weak, right? Bishop e3. Let's say knight d4 maybe in this position. Yeah, there are two games with knight d4 and just knight d2. So we just slowly completing the development. I think we have a very reasonable chances maybe to castle queenside. And as far as I see, it's just a healthy extra pawn. So I don't think any doubts about this. So sometimes it's very important not to enter some crazy from white side. I mean, not to enter like some complications, but rather to find a safe way and have like extra healthy pawn and just slowly to convert this advantage. I would have a hard time, like a guy who is usually recommended good openings. I would have rather hard time to recommend bishop c5, but you know, definitely in some blitz games, in some rapid, I mean, it might work because it requires very precise play, and people might not remember what's going on here. Okay, so now we get into d5, which is the main move. Obviously, ed5, and now the main move without any doubts is knight a5. But we need to cover as well other interesting alternatives. So now the first move is in this position. The first move, obviously, knight d5. It's like, of course, we can see a lot of games like that on the level of beginners. But you would be surprised. There are a lot of grandmaster games as well here that it's definitely considered like a mistake, knight d5. And it's considered like an opening trap, but maybe things not that simple because it's not really that white is winning here. But it's still not recommended and definitely advantage for white. So probably everyone knows knight f7 tactical trick. That's the whole point. Otherwise, knight g5 would be just a dubious move. Queen f3, king e6. So basically, we are not regaining the piece in a short run. I mean, it's more about the position of his king in the center and developing the attack, trying to open a file. So in this position, obviously knight c3 is must. It's pretty forced. And now we have two moves: knight e7 and knight b4. I always felt knight b4 kind of like the most challenging move. And it's statistically it's more played also by strong players. So but we need also to mention knight e7. So after knight e7, the play is pretty simple. I think we can start we can start with castle as well as with immediate d4 and just opening up d4. So that's the strategy. And that's a very tough position and pretty bad statistics for black, I have to admit. But also shouldn't be, we shouldn't take the win here for granted. Or definitely it's very nice play. Also d4 in this position without castling. Also d4 is quite strong. Overall, of course, like the line is very suspicious for black. Again, like I want to repeat that, like don't expect that like the king will be mated in the center. He can run away, he can run to c7, and then we rather, let's say, we'll take the pawn on a5 at some point. We can do it immediately, probably bishop g5. So eventually it will be something like only two pawns, but huge initiative in the center with the rooks on d1, rook on e1, and so on. But still a long game. So it's very nice compensation, and like I would say, like even like very nice attacking position. So knight b4, knight b4. Yeah, I was debating here. There are like even some games where white allowed, let's say, Shir, one of the recent games, he just played a3, knight c2, king d1, knight a1. So stuff like this. I thought it's well, it's challenging, but it's a little bit too much material we gave up. So I would rather stick with like move castle in this position, which is very obvious. And c6 only move because already a3 is a threat, right? And he's losing his knight on d5. So c6 must play, and with the same strategy to go d4. So now knight c2 is not that dangerous. I would rather say it's probably losing somehow after d5. After d5, followed by, let's say, if knight a1 is captured, we can play rook d1 and then break through this d5 knight, I think with Russian initiative. So this is where he probably gonna get mated on in the center with the king. So as far as I see statistically, how black is trying to defend, it's either queen f6 or king d7. I would say that king d7 is very important move to know what's going on, because that's a very natural idea to escape. That's a very important line in my opinion. So we have to play precise, and this is the most precise line in my opinion. d5. I'm sorry, it's not d5. It's actually a3, important move. a3 is important move, which forces knight c3, as far as I understand. Yes, knight c2. This time after knight c2, we have small tactical trick, and knight is lost. So therefore, the only remaining option, I'm sorry, this is mouse sleep. The only remaining options for him, to take on c3, we take a b4 and knight d5. Yeah, so knight d5, he's definitely okay giving up the pawn, but let's say getting with the king to save spot on c7, maybe b8 eventually. But now in this position, that's very important to know this move, rook a5. That's a key move, and if you don't know this move, it's probably not enough. It's probably not enough. Maybe black is better. And after king c7, rook d5, queen f6, and queen g3, white is better and won all 4 games played in this position. Most probably, I haven't checked, it's probably correspondence. The situation is very simple. I think we're gonna get e5 and keep the attack going. Definitely bishop g5 comes with the tempo. But you know, once again, I want to say the things are not so simple. I know it's always considered that knight d5 is so bad and knight f7 is just crushing, but the things are not so simple. For instance, this line, even the final position is still game. It's still game. Just white is clearly better, but it's far from winning on the spot. So some people might be interested to play this position for black, maybe to check how is knowledge of the theory for white player, and like, because one inaccurate move and it might be piece up for black. So very, very important, if you are interested to continue with knight g5, to play knight g5 in the game, like, you have to know this theory very well. Now, after d4, queen f6. Queen f6 is the move, which is like the top choice statistically. Obviously, queen straight out of questions, and the move that has to be played in this position. This is my conclusion. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that I checked like a lot, but my conclusion was to play queen d1. Why queen d1? Why not queen e2? I wanted to leave e file for the rook. Very interested approach. Maybe queen e2 also advantage. I wouldn't be surprised about that. So now ed4, king e7 is top choice in this position. This is how black is usually defending. Now, after, if he decides to take, we rather go knight a4 in this position. Knight a4, it's very important, of course. After queen f5, we don't need even to defend the knight, because there is rook e1, and every single game played in this position features c3. With powerful attack, I think knight obviously untouchable due to rook e1, and then we probably about to get to get the material back, because it's hard to believe that he can play knight a6. So you can have a look and maybe check a few games here. Most probably some of them correspondence. Okay, so after king e7, which is the main line, we play a rook e1. Obviously, that's the whole point. The best move for black, queen g6, a3, knight takes e3, pawn takes, knight d5, rook takes e5, king d8. It's almost feels like black is safe, but not really. Bishop g5 check, king c7. Now, if he plays bishop e7 in this position, so we have this very important idea: capture, and d5, opening up the d5. So d5, c5 probably forced, d6, knight c6, and rook e3. So basically, yeah, I guess like you would be a little bit surprised, but we didn't win the game like on the spot, right? So it's just very powerful compensation since he's king on d8, rooks are not connected, so we just slowly play queen d2, rook e1. It's, I think, like much easier to handle this position with white, and definitely everyone would love to play the position with initiative. So this is the line, and now after king c7, after king c7, we have to play queen f3. Very important move. h6. h6 is the only move that have been played in this position, and I guess as the reason for that the most naturally looking bishop, the naturally looking bishop d6 runs into surprising queen trap, bishop d3, and is just lost. So that's why h6 is necessary. So now after bishop d3, black can give up the queen, and it's not so clear because many attacking pieces eliminated, and by the way, black still maintains material advantage. So therefore, after h6, the move is queen g3. So there is x-ray with the king on c7. Obviously, we are threatening rook d5, rook e6, discovered check, as well as bishop d8, winning the queen. So all this makes black just has only move available to continue the game, and then we play bishop d2. So it's rather, yeah, the things are not so simple at all. Yeah, I mean, but again, we rather have long-term compensation so that we slowly play. But the fact that you know, these positions, this position b6, and just funnily enough a4, just a positional move, I guess, taking the pawn away from the attack and just preparing rook e1. Another idea, definitely preparation of c4. So what's going on from material point of view? We have already 2 pawns, right? 2 pawns plus attack. So king on c7, there is no safe place for black king. It's, even though it's arrived to c7, it's still under pressure. Bishop d7 featured in all the games. It's rather fascinating line, I would say. And bishop a6, it's a brilliant move, in my opinion, combining 2 ideas. First of all, not allowing king to b7, and then preparing c4. Overall, white is much better. White is much better. White won all 4 games where this position occurred. But again, I don't think, like, I was honestly very, very surprised that things are not so simple in this line. So, okay, so let's sign the compensation, and move forward with this line. So now we have one more move. It's very important line. It's knight to d4. Knight to d4. Yeah, I was honestly quite surprised to see a lot of Grandmasters games. I guess it's for those who are interested in theory, it's very natural. Probably there are a lot of tricks in this position. So again, I don't want to show you some bad ideas how white can lose quickly, but there are a lot of games where white got really crushed in this line. No doubts about this. No doubts about the fact that it's very tricky, and black and white player has to know the theory very well. But I want to show you the main line, and the line which creates problems for black, in my opinion, leads to white advantage. So c3, well-known top choice, and it's statistically that's a very significant margin from the second choice, which is I think like d6, and I don't think it's good. So after c3, b5, usually black's idea. However, I have noticed that there are like a couple of games recently by pretty good players where they played knight f5. I guess the idea just to play bishop d6, maybe at some point to attack the knight h6 followed by e4, and quick development followed by castle. Always the problem in those lines that we have problems with development. So again, so this is something where the precise play required from white. So the best move, in my opinion, is queen e2, targeting right away e5 pawn. If we win the second pawn, it would be too much, I guess. Now, two options. One option is to play bishop d6, and that's, I guess, the most natural. Now, after knight d6, I decided not to take the second pawn. There is, by the way, only one game, because this would allow potentially after queen e5, bishop e7, castle followed by rook e8, and so on, is just extra tempi for black attacking white pieces. So this is not recommended. So I would rather go in this position bishop b3. So I always say to my students, it's always better to have safe position, one extra pawn, than to have two extra pawns but not very safe position with counterplay from opponent side. So let's just stabilize the position. So which is I think like easily achievable. Bishop b3, bishop e7, d3, and yeah, there is one game which was played here, castle. By the way, black was a strong grandmaster, I have to admit, knight e4, but he lost this game because I guess there is nothing for the pawn right now. So now bishop d6 looks more in the spirit of this line, but we definitely have d4, castle. So everything looks not so bad for black, since black has rook e8 after queen e5, but we have one nice tactical trick, knight e6, which leads to quite big advantage, I would say. So now basically knight f5, queen e2, in my opinion, just not enough, and white is better. So b5 is the main move. Now I remember my surprise when I saw the games that white is playing bishop f1, but this is well known best move in this position. It's very important to save the bishop first of all, and secondly, anticipating queen d5. It's important for white to keep g2 pawn protected, right? Because there is a queen d5 coming, we attacking pawn on g2. So what, knight d5 is the main choice. I don't think anything else makes sense here, even though I see some like 40 games with knight f5, h6. It's not serious in my opinion. So the main, the following sequence of moves, pretty logical. cd4, queen g5, bishop b5 check, king d8. Yeah, I don't think bishop d7 would make any sense. Just trading another active piece. Yeah, so things are not so simple here. And again, many games. Overall, I guess positive statistics for white, but not by far. And there are many games that black have won. So my conclusion that castle is stronger than queen f3, which almost equally played due to just very concrete lines. So bishop b7 targeting g2 seems like the best bet. There is another choice, bishop g4, that I thought at least looks interesting, but not enough. Probably the most convincing way, queen b3, knight goes to f4, d5, and surprisingly, there is nothing that black can do on the king side. All tactical ideas are easily paired with like either queen g3 or queen f3. Now, after rook b8, which looks like you know, a nice pin, we have our own pin with this move, and overall, it's winning position for white. So bishop b7 definitely much more serious. Queen f3 has to be played. It's basically the only move for white to fight for advantage. Queen f3, rook b8, also clearly top choice. He can get one pawn back, but actually it's equal material, right? It's equal material, but it's just a pretty bad position for black due to his king on d8. So it's not that black can play normal game here, and it's just clearly better for white without any doubts. So rook b8. So rook b8 is this is the best chance, protecting bishop on b7 and creating some tactical motifs with discovered knight f4 and knight e3 and so on. But and here's the big move. I think maybe it's possible to arrive to this position, but you have to know that you can allow black to play any of these discovered moves. So that's the biggest challenge here. So it appears that the only reasonable discovered move is knight e3. Now, if he plays knight f4, we just have queen g3, easily defending. But by the way, there is also bishop c6 here, I think, which might be good enough. After knight f3, we have somewhat a forced line, queen h3. Queen takes g2. I guess it's a surprise, right? But why he trades queens? I don't know if you noticed, but we suddenly created mate in one thread. So all these seemingly winning ideas like knight g2, bishop g2, we have mate in one, queen d6. Yeah, that's the whole point of this line. So queen g2 forced, queen g2, knight g2 forced, d4. So we have right now pawn up, but black still maintains some initiative, and we have to be still accurate. So two main moves in this position. One is bishop e7, and second one knight h4, which looks very logical. Knight h4 with idea knight f3. So the only way for us to proceed is to eliminate this dangerous knight. So we get this knight, and I just decided that since he wants to move his bishop, attacking b5 as well as this pawn, while knight c3 runs into bishop f3, I decided that maybe I'll start with b3 first, and then after bishop f3, I will have in future knight d2, chasing off the bishop from f3. So I think this is more precise. even though probably knight c3 also keeps advantage. b3, and I don't think it's full compensation for the pawn. So the game might continue like this way, but it looks like slowly but surely we consolidate and hopefully convert extra pawn. So not enough compensation for black. So this is one line. Another line is bishop e7 in this position. Very, very important move, in my opinion, bishop e2. So we cover in f3. We take the bishop away from b5, which potentially can be under attack if black moves his bishop from b7. Knight h4 still the option. Something like g5, which optically looks nice, but in fact I think like we just go f3, knight f4, and I don't think like we even need to give up our dark squared bishop, which is very important piece in protecting our weak squares. Just bishop c4, and again, like I don't see anything that might bother here white. We slowly consolidate and we have extra pawn and nice advantage. So this is about this move, like knight h4. After knight h4, I decided, I checked a few moves, and probably not only one idea to play for advantage, but I decided rook d1 is the best choice. Giving up light square bishop, but somehow we get one tempo, we get another tempo if necessary. Let's say bishop e4, we go rook e3, and then we just complete development. That's why I think probably the best move for black is just to move the bishop away, bishop a8, knight c3, rook b6 looks maybe attractive, but actually there is nothing on the g file. And once again, I think it's quite healthy. He has a bishop pair, but overall it's healthy extra pawn. We slowly develop. We play probably b3, bishop e3, rook d1. Not enough compensation. Not enough compensation here. So those are the lines with knight d4. Important move. Important move again. Like for I think it's for both colors. It might be very tricky for black. At the same time, white should know very well the theoretical line here in order not to get into trouble very quickly. So now knight a5, which is definitely the main, and bishop b5 check. And now today I want to concentrate, since we are about to finish our lecture in 15 minutes. I think probably c6 I will be focused on our next class, but right now we have bishop d7, which to my great surprise have been quite popular recently. So I knew at some point that that's an alternative. Even I remember some probably 20 years ago I had some idea, but I kind of believe that it's still suspicious with some good preparation. However, like nowadays, it's there are a lot of games. There are a lot of games of very strong grandmasters. For instance, Arkady Naidich, 2700 player. Like I think like 3-4 games he played. Some other players, Yevgeny Posny. I see some strong Indian players as well here, grandmasters. So definitely deserves some attention. I still believe Queen e2 is the best choice for white now, and I think this is mainly due to the fact that there is nowadays everyone plays bishop e7. Meanwhile, I remember when I analyzed this position, I thought that bishop d6 must play bishop d6 because the pawn should be protected. So nowadays, not anymore. Yeah, so bishop e7 seems like gives better chances. So after bishop d7, queen d7, knight c3. So it's just very natural play, castle. The whole strategy for black to play c6, because black just cannot afford this knight on e5 for a long time, especially that there is nothing clear on the king side or in the center. So this type of compensation, c6, capture. So with idea, if we capture, knight eventually comes to d4 with interesting initiative. So there is something like knight d4, queen d1, and even though like there is no attack or something interesting on the king side, black maintains very interesting initiative, very interesting compensation from positional point of view. So knight is tied, so knight on c3 is tied, protecting c2. Very powerful knight on d4. Whenever white will capture knight on d4, there will be pawn on d4 and still pressure against c2. So I think this is like rather playable position. So next b5 idea, a5 maybe. I think if I'm not mistaken, I even noticed that after bishop e3 there is idea like this, like remarkable move, very very interesting. So this position I wasn't sure that white even having like anything like significant here in terms of advantage. That's why I thought this move makes a lot of sense. Queen d3, queen d3, and I think like there are like very few games, but white overall was doing like pretty well in those games. So so if h6 we play knight e4, I think like white is better here in this position from what I understand. And queen g4, another move which looks quite attractive, maybe at first glance. Knight f3 runs into e4. Yeah, we can play knight e4, but we can even play dc6. So that's the point, and the bishop is hanging on d6. So guys, I think this is the time to wrap up. I mean, we stopped here with bishop e7. I know it's very very short sessions. I used to have these 2 hours lectures, but hopefully we covered some material. I think it's pretty serious amount of material for you to go over, to repeat, maybe to expand with some other games, and hopefully it will give the results, like you're gonna win games, get advantage in the openings and so on. So now we need to leave time for the questions, and we'll continue from this moment, like next session.
Okay, so sir, it was a wonderful session today we had. So guys, now we can start taking questions. Please put down your questions in Q&A box so that we can answer them accordingly. So if you have any question, you can put them in Q&A box. We are waiting for your questions.
Yeah, I see right now only one question about player one. Sir, my rating is 1. Maybe we have sessions in chat room, I guess, because I have. What do you think?
No, people will write their question in Q&A box.
Okay, so I see one question. My rating is 1062. Should I continue playing London system or not? That's very interesting question. So, well, I guess I don't see any problem. I think also this is the rating that maybe you don't need to pay too much attention into the openings in terms of, going very deep and playing like super challenging lines. So I think London system is pretty reasonable choice at this level. Maybe once you will get to, let's say 2400 FIDE, then you might ask some questions about London. But for now, for sure, it's very, very reasonable opening to play at this level that you are right now. Is College system good for young players? I mean, it's I would say it's not about young players. It's more about like the level that you play. Let's say, I would say like this: if you're at the Grandmaster level, maybe it's not the best idea to play College system, because it's very easy play for black. But if you're, let's say, under 2000, it's just another opening you should understand it's probably not the mainstream, not the most challenging, but I also respect these kind of choices because there are many tricks. There are many tricks, and if you especially play against the players who still not studying theory like very seriously, that's a very reasonable choice. Yeah, so it's called a system. Please suggest me attacking opening. I'm like 1134. So attacking opening, I guess, well, it's very much depends. What do you like? It's e4, d4. I think actually, maybe some people would surprise, but I think after d4 as well, you can have a very attacking and sharp repertoire, not only after e4, but well, e4, it's again, it's the question, what is your opponent chooses, like, and then you obviously adjust. If it's Sicilian, you play, I don't know, main Sicilian bishop g5, queenside castle, this is attacking. For black, definitely Sicilian. I like to recommend at this level King's Indian because it's kind of like easy opening to study, and it's quite aggressive. My rating is 1535. Is Petrov good by black? First of all, Petrov is good, no questions about. You know, Fabiano Caruana has been playing this like recently, and it's been played by many top level players. The only thing, like, if you are ready to play a little bit boring chess, it's good. Well, the problem, again, like, the opening is very reliable, very good, but sometimes it's very difficult to win because white can force endgame, white can force symmetrical positions. So it's a little bit tough opening to win, but besides that, there are no questions about this opening being very solid, very reliable, and very playable. So whatever you need in a very concrete game, like if you need to win game, maybe this is not the best choice, but just to play and study chess and improve, that's very reasonable opening. My rating is 1465. What opening is suitable? I guess it's too general because my approach, especially at this level, 1465, whatever you like, unless it's something dubious and can be easily refuted. Like, every choice that you study, you like, it's suitable. You can play anything that really to your taste. So that's my general approach. I never force my students to play openings that I have been playing or according to my books. If they like something else, I'm happy to help. Should we keep following GM games to refresh our openings before tournaments? Is it a lot of work? So how much time to devote to it? Wow, that's a very interesting, it seems like a professional question. You definitely should follow GM games. Again, it depends on the level, but you know, if I'm talking about Grandmaster, and I think like you guys kind of like strive getting to this level. I used to have every time, let's say before the tournament that I supposed to play, maybe let's say 3-5 days before, I start to going over my repertoire, checking for the new games, for the updates. At the same time, trying to memorize more. This is something that I have been doing consistently. On the other hand, of course, the opening work, it's kind of like, it's keep going all the time. Maybe at the GM level, it's probably 90% of the time. So we study in the openings, but then there is a problem that, let's say some openings you tend to forget something that not happened. So that's why I take usually the time before the tournaments, like a couple of days just to repeat them. I have problems memorizing the opening lines. Can you please suggest a method to remember the lines? There are many methods, and there are, I think like maybe the problem is not about memorizing for you. It's not about memory. I'm pretty much sure you're probably a young player. Maybe just the method where you go over chess base, it doesn't work. So like in chess base, you have, for instance, training and teaching mode. Where you can hide the moves, and then obviously like you come up with a move, and then you just press the arrow, and he replies with a black move or white move. and then by doing this you go over the line. It's a good idea, but I know it's very time consuming if you can just memorize something and then repeat on the board. So it's definitely helpful. I know some players, they just it doesn't work in chess base, but they like to print the page and just repeat the line by kind of like remembering the text. So I know even some grandmasters tend to do this. I heard, I don't have this software, but I know Fritz has a special software where, like, for memory, for repeating the openings, where you can upload the file into this software and go over the lines, and it will automatically highlight the moments where like kind of like you failed, you don't remember. So, and then you cover something that you remember, and it will take you back to these places where you failed to memorize. And by doing this all the time, you will come to this to some resolution. On the other hand, guys, it's very important to understand that we as human beings, we cannot remember everything. So it's more important, I always say to my students, please make sure that you remember the main ideas, the main patterns, the main strategical ideas, how you arrange pieces. So if it's just more or less positional opening, not some crazy tactics that, of course, like you have to memorize move by move, like we have seen a couple of lines like that today, right? But if it's a positional play, so just enough to remember some thematic ideas, some thematic patterns, piece arrangement, plans, how you play with specific pawn structure, that would be good enough. Yeah, I think like more or less I was trying to cover questions as many as possible.
Yes, I have you. You have almost covered all the questions. So we have one more last question from Mr. Sanjay Chabra, and he's asking, can I play Morphy attack instead of this Italian?
I don't know what is Morphy attack. I'll be honest with
Morphy
him.
attack.
But I don't know what is this.
Okay. So here's another question. Can I play Rai Lopez exchange variation, as I don't like complicated positions?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's the opening. It's exactly like you know, let's say more for trying to improve your technical skills. Again, there are some lines where they're very interesting and very complicated, but overall, for somebody who prefers to play maybe more positional chess, more quiet chess, that's the choice. Definitely, definitely. On the other hand, you shouldn't forget. So it's a Sanjay Chabra. You shouldn't forget that you have to improve in complicated play. So that's another thing for you to debate. So you cannot always play and avoid complicated positions, right? For instance, when you play with black, you don't have such a choice like Roy Lopez exchange, right? And you're gonna follow like your opponent, and he might take you into complicated line. So think about this. So I always say, yeah, it's good, it fits your style maybe, but how about something that you have to improve? So this is the debate about your choices in the openings.
So thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful session. Thanks for sharing your wisdom with all of the people here. We will meet again in the next session next Friday, same time. We'll be back here, guys. So the recording will be updated by tomorrow. You can watch it again from tomorrow onwards in your account. So till then, bye-bye, everyone.
Moderating. Thank you very much for moderating. As always, from technical perspective, it was great. No issues. Yeah, so that's really appreciate. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Bye-bye, everyone, and bye-bye, Boris.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a nice day, guys. A good night for most of you.
Yeah, good night to most of the people here.